Number 5. Holm won the UFC bantamweight title from long-reigning champion Ronda Rousey at UFC 193. Many expected her to go on a successful run as the new champion, but that wasn't the case. Her first title defense was against number 1 contender at that time, Miesha Tate, at UFC 196. In the fight, she was choked unconscious in the 5th round and lost her world title. She next faced rising bantamweight contender Valentina Shevchenko at UFC on Fox 20, where she lost the fight by a unanimous decision. With a 2-fight losing streak, she has moved quite far away from title contention. It was recently announced that the UFC will be creating a women's featherweight division and that Holm will face Germaine de Randamie at UFC 208 for the vacant UFC women's featherweight title. In this fight, we will see what changes Holm has made to her game, and we will also see how she will bounce back from them 2 losses. It is also a great opportunity for her to win another world title in a different weight division. Number 4. After defeating Josh Bergman by a unanimous decision at UFC 182, Hector Lombard tested positive for steroids and was suspended for a year. He made his comeback in early 2016 and faced Neil Magny at UFC Fight Night 85. In the fight, Hector Lombard gassed himself out and was TKO'd in the 2nd round. He next made the move back up to the middleweight division and faced Dan Henderson at UFC 199. In the fight, he was knocked out in the 2nd round. Since USADA has been implemented, he doesn't look like the same fighter he used to be. He's next scheduled to face Brad Tavares at UFC on Fox 23. In this fight, we will see what changes he has made in his game. Number 3. UFC middleweight Uriah Hall has had an unsuccessful year. He faced Derek Brunson at UFC Fight Night 94, where in the fight, he was finished by TKO in the 1st round. He made a quick turnaround and faced Gegard Mousasi in a rematch at UFC Fight Night 99, where in the fight, he was finished by TKO again in the 1st round. He hasn't won a fight this year and desperately needs a win if he wants to remain in the top 10 of the UFC middleweight division. He is currently on a 3-fight losing streak and hasn't been scheduled to fight. Number 2. UFC welterweight Matt Brown hasn't looked great this year. Earlier in the year, he faced Damian Maia at UFC 198, where he lost the fight by submission via a rear naked choke in the 3rd round. He next faced Jake Ellenberger at UFC 201, where in the fight, he was TKO'd in the 1st round, and recently faced Donald Cerrone at UFC 206, where he was knocked out by a head kick in the 3rd round. He is currently on a 3-fight losing streak and needs to win his next fight to remain relevant in the division. It will be interesting to see how he shows up in his next fight, and it will also be interesting to see whether or not if he can turn his career around like he did before and go on a run again. Number 1. Former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovski has had the most unsuccessful year out of all the fighters on the roster. He was on a 6-fight winning streak and was on the verge of a title shot until he faced Stipe Miocic at UFC 195, where he lost the fight by TKO in the 1st round. He next faced Alistair Overeem at UFC Fight Night 87, where he lost the fight by TKO in the 2nd round. He next faced Josh Barnett at UFC Fight Night 93 and lost the fight by a rear naked choke in the 3rd round. He is now on a 3-fight losing streak and is on the verge of getting cut from the UFC roster. The UFC hasn't done him any favours in his next fight, as he will be facing rising heavyweight prospect Francis Ngannou at UFC on Fox 23. I believe if he doesn't win this fight, he may be released from the promotion.